The Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo is increasingly hosting more foreign troops seeking to restore peace and stability in the volatile region. But the recent move by Kinshasa to seek the combat capabilities of the Southern African Development Community against the M23 rebel group has attracted mixed reactions, as there are already other East African regional troops and a UN peacekeeping force on a similar mission there. CGTN's Daniel Arap tells us more.
The multiple deployments under multilateral and bilateral agreements in the Eastern DRC are beginning to raise concerns. There are already questions on how regional blocs will coordinate operations alongside a long-running UN peacekeeping mission. Kinshasa, which wants to bring an end to the instability in the east of the country, prefers a more direct offensive against the M23 rebel group. The country recently sought the intervention of SADC with the specific intention of deploying a combat-ready force to pursue the M23. Some analysts worry that a combat mission could escalate an already dangerous situation.
What is going on now, again, will not achieve much, I can assure you. What you require is a strong force, a very strong force, that has the full support of the international community and the region to address the challenge. In fact, the DRC itself must play a key role, Rwanda must play a key role, Uganda must play a key role, and the neighboring countries. I don't think SADC itself alone can make much difference.
Kinshasa insists that if the question of both missions serving concurrently becomes problematic, the East African Community's regional force will have to exit the DRC. There are growing fears that too many troops from different countries intervening in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo could lead to widespread confusion if their mandates are not well defined.
I think with what we're seeing now is if you had to have a situation where it was SADC and the East African Regional Force deployed at the same time, there would be a mandate overlap, and I think you could have a few issues there.
A South African researcher has, however, defended the deployment of SADC as a combat force against the M23.
It became necessary to redesign and reconfigure the peace mission, the peacekeeping mission. And that is why the intervention brigade was conceived and made up in part of the SADC forces, in order to give it some kind of an edge against the rebel movements, especially the M23, which a few years ago was extremely successful in claiming territory and expanding its military operations in different parts of the DRC. And they were driven back at one point in time. But now, in recent times, it has become strong again, and I think the SADC forces has a significant role to play in combating the M23.
Analysts say the international community must address the root causes of regional differences in the DRC conflict.
The EAC, I think, finds itself in a very difficult situation of, we know that there are interests there that are not necessarily just M23, and we now need to tackle this. And I think that's why you haven't seen direct combat. It's been a case of, we're going to facilitate your withdrawal, but at the same time, you're not even seeing full withdrawals, you're seeing partial withdrawals and cohabitation of some groups.
Many security analysts seem to agree that SADC is unlikely in itself to change facts on the ground without a deeper resolution of existing regional differences, including acknowledging Rwanda's concerns about the FDLR rebels opposed to Kigali and who are said to be operating in Eastern DRC. Daniel Arap, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Well, let's now get a cross-section of reactions of people living in the DRC concerning the SADC deployment.
I would love to see all these foreign troops leave our land because they haven't done much to save the situation. In any case, they have only made matters worse by escalating the violence here because many people don't believe in them, because they threaten our well.
MONUSCO has been here for more than 20 years. The EAC has come too, but we don't see what they are doing on the ground. I would say that even if the SADC forces come, it will still be the same thing. But it is rather more important to break the contracts because, of course, there must be contracts. It is really better to withdraw all these contracts and let the FARDC do its job on the battlefield.
I believe that this entry of foreign troops into Congolese territory will not be the first time. You know, concerning SADC, the civil society of North Kivu had already called on the heads of state, His Excellency Felix, to count more on the SADC forces. But the EAC intervened before SADC deployed. So for us, the arrival of SADC is a solution because the countries that make up SADC are not much more involved in the conflict in the eastern part of the DRC, but rather the countries that make up the EAC are the ones that are showing aggression against us, and some even previously fought on the Congolese soil before.
Before the arrival of MONUSCO, we had less than 45 armed groups, but today we have more than 450 armed groups, so its record is a total failure. The EAC was brought in with the objective of imposing peace, but unfortunately you saw how the M23 advanced to the door of Goma, and the EAC regional force, instead of coming to restore peace, created a buffer zone, which is abnormal.